Hello, in this video I'm covering the game between Andrey Esipenko and Magnus Carlsen from Tata Steel 2021, round 8. The opening was neither. And Esipenko went for g4, a very aggressive approach, trying to seize the initiative on the king side. And logically, black tries to do the same on the queen side. Now white goes with g5, kicking the knight from f6, and now white went with a3. He doesn't want to allow b4, he wants to keep his knight on c3, but he's leaving his g5 pawn unprotected, so what's up with that? Magnus took on g5, and Esipenko just played queen d2, a developing move, and prepares to castle next move on the queen side. Here Magnus took on e3. Here I think bishop f6 was more solid, keeping this bishop as a defensive resource on the king side, and in case of white castling, black could castle, and this would be quite double-edged, because black also has some potential play on the queen side, and bishop on f6 defends the g7 pawn quite nicely. Instead he took on e3, and now he deprived himself from one defensive piece on the king side. Queen takes e3, of course, and now queen h4, which is a loss of time in this position. Probably bishop b7 was better. And after castling rook hg1 would still be pleasant for white, because he would have a nice attack along the g file, and black would have tough time to defend. After queen h4, white plays rook g1. Here black plays g6, and now white just castles, and he goes back. He admits he wasted a tempo on queen h4, and he went back to e7, now f4. Bishop b7 now, played by black, and king b1. And this is already a very unpleasant position for black. And here he made a mistake, but it's not easy to suggest a move. Maybe something like knight c5 was the best in this position, but it's not easy to create something on the queen side, because if you push a5, the b5 pawn is very weak, and b4 cannot be pushed because of the a3 pawn. And if black castles on the king side, he immediately gets under attack by h4, h5, and opening up the position completely. Maybe his best chance was to castle longside. Instead he plays here knight c6, and he blundered a really nice tactic here. Now Esipenko took with the knight from c3 to b5, and the point is that after ab, he takes on c6, and after bishop c6, he goes queen c3. And now we have a double attack on the rook on h8 and the bishop on c6. So Magnus castles, and now queen c6. And now we have a material balance, but pawns on b5 and d6 are very, very weak. And white is going to end up being a pawn up. Now Magnus wants to give up this d6 pawn on his own terms. He doesn't want to allow queen d6 and exchange of queens, because the knight on d7 would be unprotected, so he plays d5. He tries to open up his queen, so white took on d5, and now rook fc8. Black tries desperately to generate some counterplay on the queen side, but now Esipenko finds a really nice in-between move, d6, which forces Magnus to go to d8, because if he exchanges queens, then it's just over. He can take on e7 and play rook d8 next, or bishop takes b5, so queen d8 back, and now he takes on b5, and now he is 2 pawns up. He just has to liquidate the attack of black. He tries rook cb8. For example, if he tried something like rook a3 here, white can just capture, and on rook b8 to go with something like rook g3. And even if black takes the queen, the d pawn is very strong. So instead he plays rook cb8, and after queen c4 he took on a3, but now Esipenko offers a trade with queen c7. And what does black do here? If he goes for queen f6, can you pause the video and find the move for white? The move is queen b8. And after knight b8, just take the rook. And again, the d pawn is very advanced. White's advantage is just overwhelming. So here Magnus chose to play queen e8 instead, putting his queen onto rather passive square, but he didn't have anything better, because on queen f6 we saw what happened, and if he played something else, he would either exchange queens or just give up the knight on d7. And now Esipenko finds a nice move, rook g5, defending from the 5th rank. Next, he wants to play either rook b5 or rook a5 to exchange one pair of rooks, which would make his defense much easier. Rook a4 and now rook a5. And now the point is, even if he captures on f4, white has bishop b5. And in case of rook d8, to defend the knight, white has rook a7. And the knight on d7 is going to hang very soon. So here he chose to apply some pressure on b2. Now white calmly plays b3, and after rook b7 he went back. Magnus tries something with queen d8, but now bishop f3. And the point is that after rook b4, white again goes with queen c7, targeting the knight. But now black tries queen f6. And now a big mistake would be to capture on d7, allowing rook b3. And after king c1, rook b1 here, and queen d4. That would be a disaster for white. But white still has to be careful about those sacrifices on b3, so he plays rook a8, exchanging one pair of rooks and taking the sting out of black's attack. Magnus took, bishop takes, and now queen f5, threatening again rook b3, this time because of the pin on the b1 h7 diagonal. Esipenko just plays king b2, rook b5, and now white took on d7, rook c5, and rook c1 was played, defending the pawn, after which Magnus took on f4, but now Esipenko gave a check on e8, and after king g7, after d7 he resigned because he doesn't have many resources to continue this attack, and after a check like queen e5, white can simply cover, and black is running out of checks, because after queen e2 you have rook c2. On the next move white is going to promote, and it's black who is getting checkmated very soon, not white. This was a very nice game by Esipenko, a very convincing win, and it all started, I think, when Magnus lost time with queen h4 in this position. And it all culminated when he played knight c6, having nothing better to play, after which knight b5 was a very nice tactical blow, after which black lost the pawn, then the other one, and he simply couldn't generate enough counterplay in the end. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Bye.